Funding for this program is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.
Our Town, the show about Rochester, learns about the Community Resource Mobilization Coalition, and we catch up with a local author to hear all about his debut novel. We also check out 507 Pub House and hear what's new at NerdinOut. All that and so much more coming up next on Our Town, the show about Rochester. Coming to you from 125 Live in Rochester, Minnesota, Our Town. We are joined today by Al Lunn, here to tell us more about the work of the Community Resource Mobilization Coalition. Welcome to Our Town, Al.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
So can you tell us a little bit about the Community Resource Mobilization Coalition and why it got started?
Well, Community Mobilization Resource Coalition, CMRC, is really about amplifying racially marginalized voices. The concept really is that we feel that the groups that are divided, they're polarized. We need to bring all the voices together, amplify the voice so that we can have the same kind of, listen to each other's story, so tell a collective story so that we become more powerful voice to the community.
And how old is the coalition and how did it get started?
The coalition started as a program of Diversity Council. When Diversity Council got dissolved, the program actually started maybe 4 years ago. But there's a feeling that the need of having, so that our individual voice is not stay isolated, stay being tribal. We want to be a more powerful, combining the voices together so that then we can have more influence in the direction of the community and also in the designing of what should happen with the community. So that really is, so it's about 3 or 4 years. Yeah.
Oh, it's not that long ago, but as the community continues to grow, marginalized communities, historically marginalized communities, those populations continue to grow as well. And so my understanding of CMRC is that it's sort of our voices together can be stronger together. Mm-hmm. And in that vein, who has been invited to sort of be part of this coalition? Who are some of the members of that coalition?
We currently, we basically inherited the structure that Diversity Council put together. So myself, of course, representing the Asian community, in particular within that, I'm Chinese community. And then within Asian community, we have the Indian, in that particular case. We also have immigrants from Africa. So we have Sudanese, Ethiopians, Somali populations in that group. And then, of course, we wanted to also include, and in fact, really wanted to have participation from the legacy Black and brown groups so that we can hear that story as well. And some of the names of the groups that are participating are probably familiar, the Promotion Women, Journey, and so forth. We also have the Chicano Hispanic group in our network. Yeah.
So it sounds like it's a lot of individual community members as well as a lot of these organizations that are sort of part of supporting these different communities in town. You have been, I think, have had quite a second career almost in your retirement in convening and connecting historically marginalized communities to resources. Can you tell us a little bit about just some of the ways in which, through CMRC, you've worked to connect, say, the city and other organizations to these groups that are part of the coalition?
I think we wanted to, as we evolve our group, we feel like we should be action-oriented. Mobilization is really the key word. And so in addition to our fundamental offering of gathering information from what's happening within the community to share it out to our groups so they know about them and they can participate in them, we also have started some really meaningful projects that really require collective impact from various groups. The example is during COVID, we have a project called Project Healing. what was it is that we conducted clinic to also offer knowledge about encouraging people from various groups to have COVID, understand what COVID is all about, and also have go through the treatment and all that. So also to counter any kind of misinformation. And another thing that we do in terms of mobilization is that we also participate in Rochester Community Technical College to encourage individual groups to encourage their youth to pursue technical education. So basically is that we look for opportunities that really require the collective impact from our various groups.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Al, and we look forward to staying in touch with what the coalition's up to.
Yeah, thank you.
Be sure to stick around. We have much more coming your way on Our Town. We nerd out with a local business, and we hear from a local author on the heels of his debut novel. But up first, we take a look into the future with a program designed to help prepare kids for their future jobs and careers in this week's Our Culture segment.
Southeast Service Cooperative is one of 9 education service cooperatives in the state of Minnesota, and Future Forward is a program that we started in 2019. The goal of Future Forward is to connect students to future careers. So it's to connect business and industry with educators and students. It's really to expand our workforce as we're moving forward. With the welding event, what you have is you have a hands-on learning opportunity. You have professionals working closely with students who are doing test welds to really see how they're doing. So a student is in a welding class in school, and then they go into this welding competition and they do test welds to really see how their skills stack up with what industry needs. The great thing about that is it's really an industry-driven event. You have so many people from industry that are involved with what goes on. There's also a career expo that goes along with that. So even students that right now are not in the place where they're going to be doing welds, they have the ability to go in and talk to industry about a variety of different opportunities. We work very, very closely with schools, with post-secondary institutions, with businesses across all industries, with chambers of commerce, with economic development agencies. We work very closely with all of those because our goals really connect. One of the things that I think everybody in our industry would love to crack, and I think this is education in general, is figuring out how to get information to parents so they can help their students. I love seeing the connection between students and businesses, the success of a student getting connected with a business and having the opportunity to find out the things that they want to do. And as importantly, if I were talking to parents right now, I'd say this is one of the things that parents need to think about as well. It is as important for them to figure out what they don't want to do. Because when you're looking at students, I mean, their top 2 influences on what they're going to do moving forward in their career are number 1, their parents and other influential adults, and number 2, their experiences. So making sure that students are able to get those experiences they need to figure out what they want to do and figure out what they don't want to do. I mean, truthfully, before they even hit post-secondary, because that way they don't spend that time in post-secondary in an area that they may not want to succeed in. They can go on Future Forward. There's a lot of different videos available on Future Forward. And when you go through and look at the directory, every business that has a video has a little video icon next to it. So they can go and they can watch videos and see what businesses do. The other thing they can do, things like job shadows, that's less intense than things like internships or mentorships or things like that. You certainly can, if you call up a business or contact a business in any way, shape, or form, they're going to let you come in and take a look at what they do.
For more information about this story and other Our Town features, connect with us on Facebook, Twitter at KSMQ #OurTown, or ksmq.org/OurTown.
Hi, this is Danielle Till with Our Town Spotlight, and we talk about happenings, cool things, wonderful stuff in Rochester. With me today is Brad Vigesaa. Welcome.
Hey, thank you very much for having me.
Owner of NerdinOut, one of my favorite stops in Rochester. Can you share a little bit more about NerdinOut?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a store here in Rochester, Minnesota, right off 2nd Street, and we carry vintage to new comic books, toys, video games, collectibles of all sorts, anime statues, video games again, cards, so anything like Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, or One Piece, which is really hot right now too.
Yeah, we love it. I love coming by there and checking out all the vintage toys, 1980s, not to age me or anything. But there's a lot of offerings there. How does that work? People can bring in stuff and then you all sell it, correct?
Yeah, so we buy, sell, and trade. So whether it would be a distributor giving us new product or a customer that either inherited something or just is kind of letting it go at that time, they can bring it in. We'll assess it, let them know what we can do based upon the market, and then we'll take it in, refreshen it, and we'll give it some new love for someone else.
And it's a one-stop shop because you can do activities there, you can come play board games, and then you also host events. There's an event happening.
Right. So next weekend on Saturday, May the 4th be with you, we will actually have the 501st Legion, which dress up like Star Wars characters, and it's free comic book day. So anybody, any age can come in, they can get free comic books. We will also have NerdinOut cookies. And then the surprise that's kind of out of the hacks, nobody knows yet, is we'll have root beer floats for people.
All right.
So we're going to have a fun day for everyone.
You can't go wrong with that. Are you dressing up?
We'll see.
I think you're probably going to dress up. That's awesome. And then I know that there is another building right next to NerdinOut where there is some laser tag. Share a little bit more about that.
So we offer laser tag in town also. Our biggest difference is that it's tactical. So the guns look and feel real for adults. And then for kids, they don't have to worry about wearing a heavy vest and carrying around a bigger gun. It's a hand blaster. Mm-hmm. We also just brought in a brand new sport called bazooka ball, which is really fun. If you think about it, it's basically paintball guns that shoot out 2-inch foam balls, which is like a stress ball.
All right, very cool. And what is your favorite thing to collect?
Ooh, I mean, I've started to go back to my roots. So I actually just picked up a couple of these little Galoob wrestlers, which I had as a kid. They were little rubber wrestlers where like the paint would wear off when you played with them too much. So I just started getting back into some of this stuff, and I gotta keep that quiet because if my fiance hears that, she's gonna go in my office and see all the stuff that I've been picking up lately. So, yeah.
That's awesome. For other events, anything else going on besides the comic?
Besides that, so every Wednesday in store we do Dungeons and Dragons and then also Magic the Gathering. We are working on an event at the Battleground also, and then we do League over there too, which is really fun. So it's great for whether it's adults or teenagers to come in. You can meet new people because you do get set up with different people you don't know on teams. And it's just a competitive fun. It's a great way to get your cardio because Lord knows I hate the treadmill.
Yeah, I can relate. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, Brad.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you. This is Danielle Till with Our Town Spotlight.
Hello once again, this is Michael Wojak with your Our Town Legislative Rundown. You may remember a number of years ago, we as citizens of Minnesota passed a constitutional amendment to create and dedicate a sales tax to quality of life items here in Minnesota. This includes clean water, outdoor heritage, parks and trails, arts and cultural heritage, and that includes funds that are helping to make this program possible. Well, the bill that's up this year is about $193 million, and it just passed the House on the evening of April 30th. And what's interesting about that is that has another project identified for Rochester that's of interest, and that would be funds to help remove and replace the Silver Lake Dam. It's been an item that's been in the news quite a bit, but in reality, it's been in the city's plan for almost a decade. In fact, every year it goes through the approval process and is approved as part of our long-range plan in the budget. What the concept would be is it would remove the existing dam, which if we do nothing is going to just require a couple of $1 million in maintenance over the next several years and ongoing maintenance after that. And it would instead replace that with a series of cascades, which is much better for fish population and water quality. It doesn't affect things like flood control. It doesn't involve taking any private property. And one of the great benefits of this is now the community would be able to have a complete trail going all the way around Silver Lake, the entire Silver Lake, and be able to cross under Broadway Avenue and have a good north-south crossing near Broadway. Now, not the entire plan is funded with this, but it's exciting to see this move. It got approved in the House by a vote of 118 to 13 with strong bipartisan local support. So we're excited to see where this is going to go. It'll ultimately go to Senate and Conference Committee. But if this passes, it may be the first step towards some real significant improvements around Silver Lake. This has been Michael Wojak with your Our Town Legislative Rundown.
Hi, this is Danielle Teal with Our Town Walkabout. We're here at 507 Public House, downtown Rochester with Tim Ross. Hello, and thanks for having us.
Thank you for coming. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit more about the name of 507 Public House, how you came about to coming up with it.
Well, the name 507 is being our local area code for southern Minnesota. Public House is a reference to the UK and eastern US. Basically means pub. It's a long version of the word pub.
And it certainly has a pub feel with a long bar as well as kind of this fun vibe behind us. Can you share a little bit more about what is your goal with having folks come into this facility?
Our goal is always to just have people enjoy themselves. So we're an international pub. Half is international comfort food, half is American comfort food. And we just want you to come in and have fun, and we're trying to bring downtown Rochester back to life after COVID. We're going to do bowls and sandwiches and salads and burgers and just the items we can offer quickly for the Mayo downtown staff who has to get back to work in 30 minutes. So we're going to do that. Then we do brunch on weekends and happy hour Monday through Friday.
And you have fun beverages here. Can you give us some insight on some of those?
We do one that I really like is called Sochu for the Soul, and Sochu is basically a Korean version of sake. And we do that, and we mix it with gin and lemon juice and little simple syrup.
Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. We appreciate it.
This is Danielle Teal with Our Town Walkabout.
We are joined today by Joe Milan Jr., who recently published his debut novel, The All-American. We're excited to catch up with him to hear more about his book and his life as a writer. Welcome to Our Town, Joe.
Great, thank you for having me.
So I'm a fellow writer, and so I'm not going to start off with a vast question of what is your book about?
Oh, yeah.
But I'd love to kick us off by talking a little bit about your protagonist, Bucky. The book has sort of been described as a reverse immigrant narrative, and I'd love to hear from you kind of how Bucky came to be and what his journey through the book has been like.
Yeah, well, the narrator of my book, The All-American, there was pieces of it that started a long, long time ago from writing exercises, but really it started when I was teaching in South Korea at a university. I used to teach this class called American Culture, and it's one of those classes to try to help people who are not American understand why we're so weird. And in that, there's a bunch of different values that we talk about, and it's based off this this little article that I found that the State Department used to give out, written by academic Robert Coles, who said that there's like 13 major values that Americans live by. And so things like future orientation, like we as Americans believe that the future is going to be better than the past. The idea that we believe in merit, the idea that it doesn't matter where you start, it matters like how hard you work, and that hard work, another value, will equal better results. And the reason why we always get angry is when those values are not being upheld. Now, one day when I was teaching my class, one of my students, a snarky one, was saying like, "Well, Dr. Milan, like which one, who epitomizes all these values?" And I start going through the Rolodex of great Americans. I'm like, "Oh no, we don't want to talk about that one. Oh, we don't want to talk about that person because." And then I came up with, well, it's just like any culture's values. Like nobody upholds all of them. They're always like in contention with each other, and that's pretty normal. But that started this idea of what would happen if somebody did. Mm-hmm. What would be the perfect, like idealized American? And so my idea would be someone who was raised poor, an immigrant, who believes in nothing but hard work and that the future is going to be great, and would want to be the most American sport of our moment, which is football. And so that's where the narrator came from. Basically someone who's trying to hold all of these values together and wholeheartedly, and trying to navigate a world that says that he's not either American or later he finds out Korean. So that's how it gets into the reverse immigrant narrative, where because of issues with his immigration paperwork, he was abandoned by his father to a stepmother in a rural Western Washington trailer park. And as they were trying to do the citizenship paperwork, there's a bounce check, but they never get the letter. And so, years go by, he makes a mistake, and then he gets deported from the US and then later conscripted into the Korean army.
So then he ends up back in Korea.
The country of origin,
Or country of origin. And your narrator, Bucky, has really brought into this idea of the American dream. And so, as that May is coming up and it's APIA Heritage Month, and Asian Americans in particular have sort of had to struggle with this idea of sort of being the perpetual foreigner, the outsider, no matter how many subsequent generations communities have been in this country. I think it's really interesting in terms of your book, the title. Can you tell us a little bit about the title, The All-American? I think you said a little bit about how the idea is this sort of imagination of what is actually, who would embody those values. And,
so I wish I had come up with the title, but I didn't. It was actually my editor over at W.W. Norton, Elaine Mason. She came up with it, and it fit perfectly, because this is a person who believes he is American 100%, and he tries to exemplify each of the values that we think of. But one of the things that a coming-of-age book has to do is show like a character grappling with, it's not just what you believe you are to be, it's also what the world around you sees you as. And so that grappling with that question of like who you are versus who everyone else sees you is one of the hallmarks of what it means to grow up. And as an Asian American, like that is something that you have to grapple with, is who I believe myself to be and who everyone else tells me that I am. Where do you find that, not so much a happy medium, but how do you understand it in a way that allows you to really say like, no, these are the things that I am, and these are the things that I'm part of a larger group. And so that's what the book's about. And I think something is like All-American, which is codified with college sports and all, I think that's a perfect fit.
Sure. As we're wrapping up here, writing books is really hard, so congratulations, it is really hard work. Can you tell us just a little bit about kind of your creative process? Like, what was it like to write this book?
This one, it took about 10 years, but when I say that, it doesn't mean like every day I was working on this book. And what happened was I wrote a draft really fast, really quickly, over like 3-4 months. I put it away, I picked it back up, it was terrible. And I rewrote it and put it away, and then showed some people, got some feedback, worked on it a little bit, and then I abandoned it for a lot of years. But it always hummed in the back of my mind. And when I returned to the US, I was living in South Korea for close to a decade. And when I came back, a lot of things had changed in the 10 years that I'd been away. And this book just kind of kept in the back of my mind. And then once I had an idea like, oh, this is what was missing, it really didn't take that long for me to rewrite it and get it to the point where I could send it around. So real work, maybe about a year, but it took 10 years to get that 1 year.
Yeah, it's a lot. Well, in the last couple seconds here, how can people buy your book and learn more about you?
Well, if you're here in Rochester, go over to Garden Party Books and support your independent bookstores. If you're online, you can buy it anywhere books are sold. Support your independent bookstores, and you can also check me out over at joemilanjr.com.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining us today. I hope you learned as much as I did about all that's going on in our city and all the wonderful people making it happen. For more content produced right here in Rochester, please be sure to check us out on Facebook and Twitter at #OurTown. I'm Nicole Fenoy-Amhara, host of Our Town, the show about Rochester. We'll see you next week.
Funding for this program is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.